Prologue, the cold wasn't just a temperature. It was a presence. Dr. Elena Reyes knew this the moment the helicopter's skids touched down on the desolate, snow-covered surface of Blackstone Island. The wind carried something more than just ice crystals. It carried whispers, fragments of sounds that weren't quite sounds, memories that hadn't happened yet. Her team of 5 researchers stood silently, their breath creating small clouds that dissipated almost instantly in the brutal Arctic wind. The landscape was a blank canvas of white, interrupted only by jagged black rock formations that jutted from the ground like broken teeth. "Jesus," muttered Jack Harper, the team's geological specialist. "This place feels wrong." Elena adjusted her thermal gear, her dark eyes scanning the horizon. They'd been studying unusual seismic activity in this remote region for months. Satellite imagery had revealed strange thermal anomalies, electromagnetic readings that didn't make sense. And now, they were here to understand why. Little did they know, understanding would come at a price far greater than any of them could imagine. Chapter 1. First Contact. The research station was a marvel of modern engineering, a prefabricated complex designed to withstand extreme conditions. Heated corridors, reinforced windows, advanced communication systems, everything a team of scientists could need to survive in one of the most inhospitable environments on Earth. But something was watching them, something that predated their technology, something that understood cold in ways they could never comprehend. Dr. Marcus Chun, their forensic archaeologist, was the first to discover the bodies. They were perfectly preserved, not mummified, not frozen solid in a traditional sense, but suspended, each corpse positioned in what seemed like a moment of absolute terror. Mouths stretched open in silent screams, eyes wide, hands reaching toward something unseen. "These aren't recent," Marcus said, his voice trembling slightly. "Carbon dating will confirm. But these bodies look like they're from different eras, different centuries." Even Elena approached, her professional demeanor masking the chill that ran down her spine. The bodies were dressed in clothing spanning at least 3 different historical periods. A fur-clad figure that looked Nordic, another wearing tattered 19th century maritime clothing, a third in what appeared to be early 20th century expedition gear. "How is this possible?" she murmured. Jack's thermal imaging equipment began to beep erratically, temperatures dropping. He announced, and not in a normal way. "It's like the cold is concentrating." That's when they first heard it, a sound so faint, so distant, that for a moment, they each thought they'd imagined it. A scream, muted, almost mechanical, but undeniably human. Chapter 2. The whispers begin. The research team tried to maintain scientific objectivity. They took samples, documented everything meticulously, ran initial tests on the preserved bodies. But the island had other plans. By nightfall, the temperature in their state-of-the-art research station had dropped 15 degrees below their equipment's calibration. Electronics began to malfunction. Communication systems crackled with strange interference. And the screams grew louder, not constantly, not predictably, but in moments, fleeting instances where reality seemed to fold in on itself, and the preserved body's terror became momentarily, horrifyingly alive. Elena realized they weren't just dealing with a scientific anomaly, they were dealing with something that defied every natural law they understood. "We need to leave," whispered Sarah Rodriguez, their youngest team member and environmental specialist. Her face was pale, her hands shaking, but they all knew leaving wouldn't be simple. Not anymore. Chapter 3. Memories Edge. The first true breakdown happened to Marcus Chun. It was 3:17 a.m. when he began to scream. Not a human scream. Not exactly. More like a sound being torn from somewhere between memory and nightmare. Elena found him pressed against the research station's west wall, his thermal suit partially unzipped despite the killing cold. His fingers were bleeding, having clawed deep grooves into the reinforced metal paneling. But what truly terrified her were his eyes. They weren't looking at her. They were looking through her, into something impossibly distant. They're waiting, Marcus repeated, his voice a mechanical whisper. They've always been waiting. Dr. Robert Harrison, the team's senior medical officer, sedated Marcus quickly, but even unconscious. The man's mouth remained stretched in that impossible scream, exactly like the preserved bodies they discovered earlier. The island was changing them, piece by piece, memory by memory. Chapter 4, Geological Impossibility. Jack Harper's geological sensors told a story that made no scientific sense. The island itself was alive, not metaphorically, literally. Thermal readings showed massive heat signatures deep beneath the surface, but not consistent heat. Pulsing heat, like a heartbeat. Slow, ancient, deliberate. This isn't natural, Jack muttered, recalibrating his equipment for the third time. These readings suggest something impossible. The rock formations surrounding their research station weren't just geological structures. They were something else, something that watched, something that remembered. Sarah Rodriguez noticed first how the rock seemed to shift when no one was directly looking. Subtle movements, so slight that if you blinked, you'd miss them entirely, but they were happening. Chapter 5. The first disappearance, Sarah vanished at precisely 4:42 a.m. One moment she was there, reviewing environmental data in the secondary research lab. The next, nothing. No trace, no sound of movement, just absence. When Elena reviewed the security footage, something impossible happened. The camera didn't show Sarah disappearing. It showed her transforming, slowly, incrementally, her body becoming translucent, then crystalline, then something else. The last frame showed only a perfect, human-shaped block of ice with a mouth frozen mid-scream. When Elena played the footage for the remaining team members, the screens went instantly, completely dark. Interlude, historical fragment recovered research notes, dated 1896. The island remembers, always remembers, those who come seek understanding. But understanding comes with a price, a scream, a moment, an eternity. Chapter 6. Containment becomes impossible. By the time Jack realized they were no longer in control, it was too late. The research station's walls began to breathe, not metaphorically, literally expanding and contracting like massive, pale lungs. The temperature dropped another 20 degrees in minutes, and the screams, which had been distant, almost theoretical until now, became absolutely, horrifyingly real. Voices from every era, every possible human experience of terror, layered, compressed, waiting. Chapter 7. The revelation begins. Elena understood then that survival was no longer the objective. Understanding was. The research station had become a living nightmare. Walls that breathed, floors that seemed to pulse with an impossible rhythm. And always the screams, layered, compressed, waiting. Marcus Chun, who had been sedated, suddenly sat upright in his medical bed. His eyes were different, not his own, something older, something that had seen centuries compressed into a single, terrible moment. This island. He spoke, but the voice wasn't entirely his. Is a memory collector. Dr. Harrison tried to approach, but Marcus raised a hand. The movement was too precise, too controlled to be human. You don't understand. Marcus continued, but you will. Each body we found, each frozen scream, they're not victims, they're witnesses. Chapter 8. The geological truth. Jack's research revealed the impossible. Blackstone Island wasn't a natural formation. It was a construct, an organic machine designed to capture and preserve moments of absolute human terror. Geological layers showed impossible stratifications, rock formations that defied every known principle of plate tectonics, layers that seemed to be composed of compressed human experiences. It feeds on fear, Jack whispered, reviewing his data. But not just recent fear, generational fear, ancestral terror. The thermal imaging showed something else. Deep beneath the surface, something was moving, slowly, deliberately. Chapter 9. Transformation. Sarah Rodriguez was no longer entirely human. When they found her, She was half crystallized, her body a perfect sculpture of ice and memory. But her eyes were alive, watching, understanding something far beyond human comprehension. We are becoming part of it, she said, her voice a combination of multiple frequencies. The island doesn't kill, it preserves. Elena realized then that their research expedition was never a choice. They had been called, selected. The island had been waiting. Chapter 10. The mechanism revealed the island was a collector, a vast, organic mechanism designed to capture and compress human terror. Each frozen body they had discovered was a memory, a moment of absolute fear, preserved with scientific precision, but not just preserved, studied, analyzed, understood. Marcus explained it like a dream and a scientific theorem combined. Imagine, he said, a place that can capture the exact moment of human terror, not just the physical response, but the spiritual resonance, the quantum imprint of fear itself. The research station's walls began to shift, not randomly, but with purpose. They were becoming something else, something that wasn't quite human anymore, but not entirely alien either. Chapter 11. No, escape communication with the outside world had long since ceased. The helicopter that had brought them became nothing more than a memory. A distant possibility. Blackstone Island wasn't a location. It was a state of being, a compressed moment of eternal terror, and they were becoming part of its memory. Chapter 12. The final understanding. Elena Reyes had always considered herself a rational scientist. Logic was her religion, empirical evidence her sacred text. But Blackstone Island was rewriting everything she understood about reality. The transformation wasn't painful. It was worse. It was illuminating. Each team member became a conduit, a living memory receptor. Marcus, Jack, Sarah, Harrison, they were no longer individuals. They were witnesses, collectors, parts of something infinitely larger than human comprehension. The island's true nature revealed itself like a complex geological formation emerging from centuries of geological pressure. It wasn't just collecting fear, it was understanding it. Chapter 13. The quantum memory. Dr. Harrison was the first to fully articulate the island's true purpose. We're not being killed, he explained, his body now partially translucent, crystalline structures forming beneath his skin. We're being integrated. The island was a quantum memory processor, a biological geological mechanism that captured human terror at its most fundamental level. Not just the moment of fear, but the entire quantum signature of that experience. Each frozen body they discovered was a perfect recording, like a biological hard drive, capturing not just the physical moment of terror, but the entire emotional and psychological landscape of that singular, infinite moment. Chapter 14. The origin. The island's history stretched back further than human civilization. Geological evidence suggested it had existed long before the first human walked the earth. Ancient, waiting, collecting. Indigenous legends from surrounding Arctic regions spoke of a place where nightmares were born, where time folded in on itself, where human terror became a tangible, collectible resource. But no one had ever understood its true purpose until now. Chapter 15. Transformation. Complete. By the time the last communication signal died, the research team had become something else entirely. Not alive, not dead, but preserved. Elena's final log entry was both a scientific report and a philosophical revelation. We are no longer researchers. We are memory. We are the island. The screams are not just sounds. They are data, compressed experiences, a library of human terror that stretches across millennia. Final chapter. Preservation. When the rescue team arrived weeks later, they found nothing. No research station. No bodies. Just a pristine, snow-covered island that showed no signs of recent human activity. Only the thermal imaging equipment revealed something strange. Deep beneath the surface, something was moving, pulsing, remembering, and waiting. Epilogue. The next expedition, the scientific community would later classify the Blackstone Island expedition as a complete loss. Missing researchers, no recoverable data, just another Arctic research mystery. But somewhere, in a realm between memory and reality, Elena Reyes and her team continued their work, collecting, understanding, preserving. The screams continued, eternal, infinite, silent. The end author's note, The Frozen Screams, explores the boundaries between scientific investigation, quantum memory, and the fundamental human experience of terror. It suggests that fear is not just an emotion, but a quantifiable, preservable experience that transcends individual human existence. In the tradition of cosmic horror, the story reveals that our understanding of reality is limited, and there are mechanisms in the universe far beyond our comprehension, collecting, studying, and potentially using our most profound emotional experiences in ways we cannot begin to understand.